everyone, Christine IC here. Welcome back to my channel. So this episode is a minivan conversion to a minivan camper. My husband bought this van back in November of 2019. You will see footage of him converting it and making it to the camper it is today. There is footage of video and then still pictures to show you the process that he went, and he explains a pretty good bit. So I'm gonna get out of here and let him explain. Later.
Welcome everyone. This is the start of the conversion of the Dodge Grand Caravan into a travel vehicle, basically a mini camper. I'm going to use this to take some trips, go to state parks, stay in it a few nights. It's not really going to be made to stay in full time, but it'll be made to stay in, 3 or 4 nights in a row, a couple nights while you're on the road, just to make travel more comfortable and allow you to go to places that you can't get to with the big RV. So I purchased a 2012 Dodge Grand Caravan, 125,000 miles on it. Keeps the cost down, the initial startup cost down that way. There are a lot of advantages to the Grand Caravan. The reason we chose this over a panel van, number one, this blends in better. Because it's just a standard minivan and these things are all over the place, you do blend in a little bit nicer. Also with the stow and go seating, once that's removed, it'll give us quite a bit of extra storage underneath. You can see this one is in really good shape, so it was the ideal candidate to start with. So here's the interior, straight, simple Dodge Grand Caravan. Things that were a must on this was the rear backup camera. The reason that's important is I'm going to install a lockpick, so that way we can run the rear camera at all times, because once we black out the windows, it will then be used as a rearview mirror. You can see, obviously, second and third row seating, but this is all going to come out. All this second and third row seating is going to come out, which gives us access to all the storage in the compartments underneath here and all the storage in the rear. So once these seats come out, obviously all that storage is accessible and usable for storage inside the camper. So I picked the Dodge Grand Caravan for a very specific reason. It was the stow and go seating in particular, because that will give us extra space underneath the seats to give us extra storage. The floor space on this is very similar to that on the ProMaster City. It will fit a 4x8 sheet of plywood, but this has then, with the stow and go seating, quite a bit more storage. Now, because the van has more curved walls, you lose a little headroom space, but the overall seating was what I thought was worth the difference. So let's show you around. So basically, I wanted a floor plan such that we could have a bed and a seat both, and it needed to be, the bed needed to be able to come up and down very easily. I don't want to have to take it up and down, pull pins in and out. So we built it basically a frame out of square aluminum tube and plywood that we actually shaved down, or not plywood, 2x4s that we actually shaved down to make a frame. And then the base of it actually is, again, square tubing that is riveted and bonded together, and then has 3/4 inch MDF in the middle of it, with then a rubber sheet over top of it, plus then the foam over top of that. So then we put the fridge freezer up on a platform because we use the stow and go seating underneath for extra storage. Now we have a foot mat here for shoes, because when you go places, everywhere you go, you end up then creating a dirty mess with your shoes. So now you have a mat that you can put out, and then when you're traveling, put it underneath. So that's why we have this foot mat. It fits underneath there just perfectly. And you can see then, it gives us access then to the storage here. Basically, you built this just the right height to allow us to flip that up. Once we get into there, we can get into our full storage underneath here. The things I store in here are things that we don't use often. Jumper cables, tools for the van, things like that. Dirty laundry goes under here. Sleeping bag, things that we don't get out as often for cold weather. We'll start here at the beginning. When you first go in, you can see the Engel. It's a fridge freezer. I picked this one specifically because I wanted to have a freezer. We eat a lot of protein shakes. That's probably our #1 meal for lunch. So I needed frozen fruit and so forth. I needed a way to carry almond milk or coconut milk in the refrigerator part of it. So I wanted a freezer and fridge. This is one of the ones that is taller, so it actually fits in a small square footprint, but still giving you quite a bit of space. We put this up on the platform obviously so we can get underneath there, but one of the things we ended up having to do then is put it on a slider. And the point of the slider is to bring the refrigerator out this way and lock it in place, so that way while we travel, the passenger seat can be pushed back and lean back and reclined. Obviously we need to keep my wife comfortable traveling. The structure that we made this out of is a 2x4 structure, but it's a metal frame. I did the metal frame on purpose so that way it could span the opening for the stow and go seating and be mounted to the mount for the seat. That way I didn't have to drill in anything into the van, and if this could all be removed and the van actually turned right back into a minivan. So then the other parts of this then are obviously a sink. One of the other things we want to be able to do when we travel is brush our teeth, take out our contacts, wash our face, so forth. So we put in a sink. It has just an on-demand water pump here, and pumps quite a bit of water. It runs real nicely. Obviously this comes out so you can wash your hair in the sink and so forth. It's actually long enough you can stretch it out the door, although I have an outdoor shower so we don't need that. 12-volt lighting, and then a microwave. We eat a lot on the road. We like food, so we tend to go out to eat at nice places. So we have a lot more leftovers than we do actually cooking, so we don't need, versus a hot plate or something along that line, the microwave works better for us. And so I have a 3,000 watt inverter, which will run the microwave. I also have shore power plug-in, and I'll show you that, so we can run the microwave off shore power if we need to. So for the windows, we wanted to black those out. Basically what I did is I ended up taking then, this is insulation like what you would find in for an engine bay. It's silver on one side, reflective, which I actually covered them with the felt so it would be a blackout. And then basically we just put then an imitation leather then on the inside. So they're glued to each side, velcroed then to the window so it could be removed if need be, although we've never really found a reason to take them out. So some of the other things we added then was a DVD with a tuner, and because we have the tuner when we go places, we can use the antenna, which is mounted behind here in the window, to get local TV stations for, just again, local news, things that are going on, events and so forth. The DVD does then hook to the TV. Now obviously the Dodge Ram Caravan has its own TV, but to use that TV then you would end up having to run the van or keep the van power on. This way we don't have to, it runs off then the battery source. So as I said, for the bed, we want to be able to take this up and down easily. So you can see it's built on just a frame of aluminum 1x tube, and then 2x4s. We built the frame and the chassis then with drawer slides, so that way it just slides down like that. And so to get it up and down, it's just simple as unlocking it. It does not lock in the open position. Gravity holds it there. And then it's got a handle to pull up on. Slides and locks back into place. We keep the bedding up here. I put in a rod to hold on to the bedding, so that way you can keep it up out of the way. A pillow fits right behind it, and then all your bedding sits here, so you can put the chair out, put the bed out of chair mode, and lay down nicely. Alright, here is the couch bed that I built for the minivan. This is obviously just a frame. I don't have the sliders yet for the operation of it extending out into bed, but it does slide decently without them, to give you an idea of what's going to happen. So basically, it is just as simple as this part here. Slides forward, and there, creates a bed. Not much more complicated than that. And then the reverse to put it back together. And then for the trunk, what goes over the top of the storage, basically it'll flip up to have access to the deep storage that the minivan has. The other reason I like this design was that it would give us a functional seat in the back, so when we go places. We've went then to the beach and to a lake, and we've sat and ate lunch, and you can just sit and enjoy the lake and sit here and underneath the shade and out of the rain even, and sit and enjoy a view and have a nice time to relax. So that's why we built it this way. The other thing then with the bed with this seat is you can actually access the stow and go seating again by flipping this up, and now you've got access to all this, which this is a large storage, so your suitcase have to be a little shorter, but they still fit in fully. So a Caravan suitcase, no problem, fits in there. A cooler fits in there, so forth. So then you can see this is how I built the bed frame. Basically, it's a 1x square tube, okay, riveted and bonded then to some aluminum to hold the corners, Engel, MDF put on top of that, and on top of that, on top of the MDF then, is then a basically yoga mat that's been cut and then velcroed to it to give a more of a hard surface, and then obviously the foam. This is a very stiff foam. It's only 3 inches, so we can get actually really stiff so you don't actually go down all the way and hit the bed frame ever when you're laying on it. So after we took our first trip, one of the things we realized is that getting your clothes out of a backpack or a suitcase every day left them quite wrinkled. So I wanted to be able to hang stuff up. So we devised a closet back here. And so basically we just put hooks in here that allow us then to hang the clothes, put in a bungee cord and a strap, and it allows them to stay up. So they will come up and down with the door, and it allows you to hang. Really, you can hang 2 hangers on each, so 6 days worth of clothes, and that way the things you want not to be wrinkled cannot be wrinkled. side of things, well, the plumbing, electrical, it has two 4-gallon water tanks, and then this is basically our fresh water. This is then our gray water. Gray water obviously drains just out of this tube. You just open up then the valve, drain it out then into, again, depending on where you're at, into, you know, onto the ground if you use biodegradable cleaners, so forth, or into you know, a black tank somewhere. I also then came up with a hose for the outside, same type of thing, so that way if you were to be out somewhere in such a way that, you know, your feet are dirty, stuff like that, you then can turn on this hose. And it actually works pretty darn well. It gives you a pretty good, yeah, so, but and we also have then, I keep the power cable here because I do have shore power in this, so that way you can plug in, if you're at a campground, you can plug into a regular outlet and run everything, microwave included, and the battery charger off of that. 3,000 watt inverter, which then will power the microwave, plus then the outlet that's there to run the blender. On-off switch, so that way we can disconnect the battery and keep all of the electronics in the back off, so it runs just like a regular van and doesn't drain the battery out at all. It also has then an onboard battery charger, the Norco Genius there, and that allows us then to, when we're plugged in, keep the battery charged full time. So again, when you're at a campground, when we're at home, or if we're not driving a lot in between, you plug the van in and it keeps the battery fully charged. Smoke detector, carbon monoxide detector, obviously some 12-volt outlets, and then the fuse. And then for shore power, basically I added right in here, I added then just a regular plug here into the front, and then it runs through the firewall back into the back and allows you then to plug in. The battery charger is always plugged into the outlet, but then also you can plug in then the microwave, things like that, and not have to run it off of the inverter and the batteries. So, you know, the van, we've been in it now 2 or 3 different trips, and road trips primarily. I stayed in this for a week, and I was at a campground, so obviously you can use their shower and so forth. It works out real nice. It was comfortable enough for one person. 2 people for a full week or longer would be difficult. Mainly the point of this is to make road trips. It's not to be full-timers in it. A minivan is tough to do that, but the minivan gets great gas mileage. I get 25 to 26 miles to the gallon with this, so we can travel. It's an inexpensive way to travel. We can spend the night on the road, and when we get where we're going, rent a VRBO, get a hotel room, spend a couple nights there, and again, still have something to drive around and go out to parks like this during the day. And then pick the next location and take 1 or 2 days to tour, stay the night at, again, a rest stop, Walmart, so forth, and have a nice place, comfortable place to take out my contacts, wash my face, brush my teeth, things like that. We sleep nicely in the bed, being 4 foot wide, sleeps the 2 of us just fine. And again, get a good night's sleep. It's comfortable. Food whenever we want it. Since it's a refrigerator, we're not changing ice. We've got, you know, just all the comforts of home that we need to make traveling nice. It allows us to travel in an inexpensive way, hopefully getting us to travel even more because it's not costing us thousands every time we try to go for a long weekend.